This is Build Without Chaos. I'm Colleen Goepfert. One clear idea every episode for operators, founders, and marketers who build with intent. I'm sitting down today with Lyndsey Corona, someone who spent years leading inside some of the most fast-paced, high-stakes environments out there, the agency world in New York City. She's built teams, guided big brand strategy, and navigated nonstop client demands, all while holding a leadership style that's calm, clear, and deeply intentional. What's always stood out to me about Lyndsey is that she doesn't step away from the pressure. She stayed in it, but she chose to lead differently. This episode is about that, the kind of leadership that knows how to move fast without losing its center, the kind that shows that calm really is contagious. So before we jump in, Lyndsey, hello. Do you want to tell the folks a little bit about who you are and the kind of work you've led?
Sure. I, as you just said, have been in the ad industry for about 30 years. Spent most of my career working in growth and new business, which many would say is the most high pressure job in the agency world. But I've also led major global accounts, major telco accounts, major retail accounts, spirits, you name it. Now I'm a leader at a holding company and still loving it.
I love that. So you've been through a lot of chaos, 30 years of the agency world, all in New York City?
Yes, all in New York City except for a mistake in San Francisco.
Okay, well, we'll still count that. So you've been through a lot. You've seen a lot throughout your career. What's something that used to throw you off in your early days, but now just kind of rolls off your back?
I used to get through when everything that could go wrong goes wrong. And I think you have a perfect picture in your head and then none of it pans out. And it really used to rattle me. Also, kind of just throw me into a tailspin. You have to stay calm in moments like that and expect that things won't always go as planned. And make sure that you have a clear head when you're dealing with things going crazy.
Let's talk about the early chapters of your career. So for those of you watching, Lyndsey and I actually are friends and we met in college. And I remember Lyndsey getting an internship right out of college in Boulder in advertising. You've legit been in the advertising world your entire career. So I guess, what did chaos look like in your early career? I have to think back then, 30 years ago, it was more normalized and sometimes even rewarded, right? And so, like, how did that shape you? And how did that shape the way you became a leader back then?
Yeah, I mean, I think chaos is ever present and only becomes more intense the higher up you go. I think early in your career, you don't have the tools to know how to deal with it. And you add to the chaos by constantly questioning yourself and wondering if you're good enough or questioning every single decision that you make, which makes it really, really hard to move forward. It often resulted in paralysis. So I think I ran into that a lot, just a lot of self doubt and not knowing how to deal with the fast paced, high demands of the job at the time. But I think as you spend more time in the role and in the industry, you become more confident in your own ability and your ability to see through that chaos. So I think it just naturally happens over time.
Is there a moment you can think about, like a situation back then that caused that internal paralysis that you mentioned? That you were like, wow, this is really what the chaos feels like?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't still have it.
Sure.
I think back then I didn't have the tools to recognize when I was paralyzed or when I was lost or when I couldn't act. And I just didn't have the tools to move forward.
Hmm.
And it would result in oftentimes withdrawing and hiding from the job. I remember I had a job that was awful and I would hide in a conference room all day. I would still do my work, but I would hide from it. And I think through a lot of work on myself, I've gotten very, very comfortable with the chaos and being able to kind of step into it with confidence as opposed to run away from it.
So let's talk about that. What helped you with that shift? Like, how did you start recognizing those tools to help deal with the chaos in the moment?
I think it's two things, and this won't come as any surprise to you because you know me well. It started when I hit rock bottom, I think, actually, which resulted in me taking up a number of new habits. Specifically, stoicism is something that I'm very, very committed to. I've read a book called The Daily Stoic every single day for the last 10 years or more. I took up yoga, I took up meditation. Through those things, the stoicism helps you control the direction of your thoughts,
Hmm.
and meditation, and to some degree, yoga helps you pause before reacting. I think a lot of chaos is caused by just reacting emotionally to different situations. And when you can control your emotional reaction or take a pause for a moment before acting, it really allows you to cut through it. I would say stoicism and meditation are the two most important.
So how'd you get into stoicism?
I got into it. I have a wonderful husband who saw that I was going through a really difficult time. So he picked up a number of books on his way home from work one day, and The Daily Stoic was one of those books. So was Marcus Aurelius's Meditation.
How did you recognize that you needed to start looking into a different philosophy of life to help you out in the workplace? Was something happen? Someone say something to you, or was it an overall vibe you were getting?
What triggered it was a series of very, very difficult work situations, both of which had to do with people attacking my ability for reasons that were completely unfounded, but it seeped in eventually and it crushed me over time. So it was a couple of people that were threatened by me, threatened by the people that I was close to, decided to start tearing me down.
Yeah.
It created internal chaos. Yeah. And my husband threw me a lifeline and got me into stoicism or gave me a book on Buddhism. And I started working on my own spirituality and finding quiet.
So when did you realize your energy or just being into stoicism could start setting a tone to live differently in the workplace?
I knew it almost immediately when I started reading that book that there were going to be lessons in there that I could take and apply to the everyday. What Stoicism is, it pulls from philosophers and applies it to everyday life and work. So I knew it pretty quickly. I think I really started feeling the impact of it on my life 3 to 5 years in. It just started seeping into my being. It made me a much better leader in that time. That was a time of tremendous growth. I was in a big C-suite job, and those demons of insecurity and
Yeah.
imposter syndrome and I don't believe in myself or my abilities started creeping in. After a little while, I realized that it's about how you react to situations that allows you to succeed.
Yeah. I think also once you start leading differently, boundaries stop being a personal thing and start becoming a part of your actual strategy. And it sounds like that's what you started doing with Stoicism and the different philosophers that you were researching at the time or just studying, and how you started parlaying that into the workplace.
Yeah. One thing that it does do is it gives you permission to say no
Yeah.
and gives you permission to draw boundaries and to be very, very clear on what you need to be successful in your job and to think clearly in your job. For me, I get up every morning around 5 or 5:30. I read the Daily Stoic, but I also read meditations over and over. I read a number of different things every morning to just give myself perspective heading into the day. I meditate every single day, I work out every single day, and I draw the line of I will not have meetings before 10 a.m. Sure, is there an exception here and there? Yeah, sure. But it is. Those are things that make me whole and make me better.
Let's talk about that because I think that's important. I want to expand on boundaries. How did that change the game for you? And when did you start creating them? And how was the reaction from people when you started putting forth these boundaries?
I just did it. And they grew over time because I wanted to add more goodness into those periods of my day, so they got longer. But how did people react? I mean, I was already in a leadership position at the time, so I wasn't asking for anyone's permission to
Yeah.
do anything. I would just tell people what I was doing.
You touched on that you created a boundary of not starting meetings before 10 a.m. How did you start creating those boundaries? What was your starting point there?
My starting point was just to do it. It started with attempting to read the Daily Stoic, attempting to meditate, attempting to work out every day. I would say the first thing that stuck was the working out every day. That was easier for me because it was active. The reading became more regular as it became the habit eventually, and it starts to click. Different things that you read start to click. Meditation continues to be hard. My longest streak is 53 days in a row, which I'm very proud of.
That's amazing.
But it's hard to carve out even 10 minutes, but you just do it. You do it because you know you're better and you notice when you don't do those things. But over time, it just turned into more and more things that would make me feel good and make me better during the day. Started with workouts, then got into the reading, then got into meditation, and it just became it's habits that you intentionally develop to make yourself better.
And so, how did that help you with boundaries in the workplace? You started working out, you started meditating more, you started journaling. Like, how does that transition back into how you were a leader?
The big boundary for me was the morning and carving out time for myself to do those things and knowing that I can't control everything. Acknowledging what you can and cannot control is important. I'm in a role that once I start, it'll end when it ends. And I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me because I've done all of my self work in the morning.
Yeah.
How people react, my team knows that I draw a pretty hard and fast line on that stuff, and it empowers them to do the same thing. So that's the impact that I've noticed the most. I've shared that book, The Daily Stoic, with my leadership teams, with the people on my teams, and they read it still. They send me pictures of whatever the day is, and they're grateful for that book as well. So I think it empowers other people to draw boundaries.
So, how do you continue to protect that now? How do you make sure that boundary is not squashed or overlooked?
It's a non-negotiable. And I think work has evolved quite a bit, or I'd like to think so. I think that there's a new generation of leadership, specifically female leadership, where having boundaries like that is encouraged. I think COVID allowed people to draw boundaries in a way that was much more open versus back in the day, we would put our head down and just work. Be the first person in, the last person out. You never left before your boss. And oh my gosh, you didn't even ask for vacation over the holiday break. I remember it was tough for me to even ask for a day to travel to California.
Have you ever caught yourself losing your calm mid moment, like in a work situation?
All
And
the time.
yeah, I do too. I do too. And how do you reset it? I know for myself, like if something is getting way too chaotic and I'm trying to shut it down, and let's say it doesn't go down that path, and then it starts to unravel even more. Afterwards, I'm really reflecting on the why. Like, how did it get down that path? What happened?
Oh, interesting. See, I thought your question was coming from a different place. I think when other people get chaotic or things go sideways, I'm very good at controlling that, directing and diffusing it. Now it's never a problem for me. I think probably because of my position. And I just know how to get people to focus on what's important, which is their strengths and the strengths that every person brings to the table. Where I thought you were going was the moments where you can't see clearly.
That's where I was going.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
That happened to me a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And it's the ability to pause, and meditation gives you that ability, being able to see your thoughts as they're happening and recognize what's happening. So you have to pause in those moments.
Yeah.
When it's really bad, and the other week was rather bad, I walked. I went on a walk. I just said, I have to get out. I need to leave. And went on a walk with a couple of colleagues that I know and trust, and we just walked. That was it. You got to step out.
You got to step out. I think you've got to step out, and you also need to not react so quickly. If I think about situations, let's take a breath. Let's make sure the way I react to this is the proper way. I've thought about every angle. I've given everyone the benefit of the doubt. And then we step forward.
Yes. That I think is always, yes, that's when you're dealing with other people. You have to pause. And I'm working actually on a training for my team right now. We work in an extremely high-paced field, not advertising, but we've got a very high-paced client that we work with. But it's very easy because things move so fast to just go, but people don't pause and think, which leads to a lot of inefficiency. It's something you've got to work on. So I'm good at that in general, but giving people the tools to do that is important. It comes back to the emotional chaos caused on the inside as a result of your own lack of discipline in terms of how you control your reactions to things.
Yep.
That's when you've got to literally walk away as a person. If you can't figure it out, you have to remove yourself from a situation.
And do you think your philosophy of life has helped you with that?
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody to have a purpose in life. And sometimes you just need to remind yourself of what that single purpose is.
You mentioned how you communicate with your team and how you'd like to lead with intent, not reactive. How do you mentor someone on your team to get to that point of being more stoic, more understanding of a situation? How do you have that leadership, and how do you project that onto your team?
I think you got to give them the tools. I'm working on a training now. I acknowledge that I haven't given them all of the tools that they need to deal with everything that comes at them every day.
Yeah.
So I think you need to give them the tools. I think you need to be very clear about what expectations are so that they understand what their role is and what their responsibilities are in an organization.
Yeah.
And I think it's important when someone comes to you with a problem to put whatever you're doing down and give them your full attention. You've got to be able to do that, because if you don't, they feel chaos coming from you. If you're frantic and you're looking at your phone, that in and of itself is chaos. So it's really important that they see that you will stop, give them your full attention, and then deal with whatever it is and move on. At the same time, you have to draw a boundary on that. It can't be a 3-hour conversation, but it's important that people feel that you're invested in them.
Let's talk about you creating this contagious calm in a work meeting. Let's say it's one of these big meetings where there's a lot of money on the table. It's a big brand. It's a company that you're very much wanting to work with. You've got CEOs and junior people of all types in this meeting. You're the linchpin. You're walking in. How do you initially set the tone for a meeting like that so that it runs smoothly and avoid any sort of chaos that can come about?
I think the most important thing to do is be clear on what the objective and the desired outcome is of whatever meeting that you're having, so everyone knows what to expect. And here is the plan for achieving that objective. These are the things we're going to talk about, or these are the things we need to review, or what have you.
What do you wish more leaders understood about presence in a meeting? How you hold yourself?
I think they need to know that people are looking to them for clarity. And when, as a leader, you're not clear on where you're going, what you're asking, you engender chaos.
You do.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. I do have a few more questions. So, what's something you protect now that you didn't 5 years ago with your leadership?
I think for a long time, I've been pretty good at protecting things. But what I didn't protect was my time. And still, it can be a little bit hard. But time is your most valuable resource. So you have to do the most you can with the time that you on this planet, during this day, during whatever week. Just always make sure you're making the best use of that time. And sometimes that time is best spent doing nothing. It's also just, again, like stopping and saying, hey, I'm not proud of how I've spent the last 3 weeks. I feel like I haven't been as effective as I think I could be, should be, because I'm not spending my time in the right way. And that will happen. That happens. The important thing is just to acknowledge when it's happening and try and find your way out.
I completely agree. What would you say to someone who thinks chaos is just a part of the job?
I would say they're right. You can't control the chaos around you. All you can do is control how you react to it. That's it. But the world is chaotic, and goodness, it's getting more chaotic by the hour. You can either emotionally react to it, or you can acknowledge that you cannot control what is happening out there. All you can do is control your response to it.
Final question. When in doubt, how do you come back to calm?
I meditate. I find quiet.
And do you wait to the morning to do that? Or is that something you think you can break away in the middle of the day?
I'm trying a new thing of breaking away in the middle of the day. There's something that I was told it's called LST, limited stimulus time.
Okay.
For 20 minutes every day, has to be the middle of the day, where you put on noise canceling headphones and close your eyes and just sit. And I'm like, that's meditation. It's not meditation. It is just allowing whatever to happen, but just removing all of the stimulus. I've done it a handful of times since someone told me about it. So, yeah, I don't know.
Does it work?
It does work. It does work. I would say coming out of those, I get really clear.
So you feel it just resets your mind.
Yeah. And it's not like meditation, you focus on breathing and removing thought, right?
Yeah.
In this, you let your thoughts go. You go internal.
Maybe I'll give it a shot.
It has to be the middle of the day, though. It can't be the morning.
Why the middle of the day?
Because that's when you're in the middle of most chaos.
You heard it here first. Middle of the day is when you're in the most chaos, which probably is true. And if you're in the middle of chaos at nighttime, that's a whole nother layer of chaos. All right. Thank you, Lyndsey, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone next episode. Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Without Chaos. If today's episode resonated, subscribe and share it with someone else who's building without chaos.